Okay, welcome to the screencast for my Programming 11 game design tutorial. And what we're working on today is we're working on collision detection. And we're going to show you a very simple way of detecting whether one picture box is touching another picture box. And we're going to measure the distance around the outside and that kind of mumbo jumbo. So I'd like you to create a new Visual Basic application, please. And we're going to click on New Project here. And just by default, it's a Windows form application like we usually do. For me, the name, oops, if I can click on that, there we go. Name of the project is going to be Collision. Alright, so we're going to keep this simple. We're not going to have any movement in our game. All we're going to do is we're going to create a bunch of picture boxes and we're going to drag them onto the screen. And then we're going to position them in the design phase and then check them out when we actually run the program. So go to your toolbox, please, and grab 4 picture boxes. There's one. I'm just going to resize this one. And I'm going to set its back color property to something different from what our player is going to have. So that's going to be one of our enemies. And I'm just going to copy and paste that a couple more times. So we're going to have 3 enemies in this particular demo. And this guy here is going to be our player, so I'm going to set his background color to something a little bit different so we know who's who. There we go. Alright, so these are going to be our 3 enemies. This is going to be our player. And all we're doing for collision detection in game design is when one object bangs into another one. So, I don't know, like for example, if you're playing Space Invaders and you launch a rocket at one of the aliens, when your rocket hits an alien, that's a collision detection. When you've got, Pac-Man running through a maze, collision detection works like this. It'll prevent your Pac-Man from going off the path. Also, when the ghosts eat the Pac-Man and when your Pac-Man eats the pellets, all these are collision detections. And there's lots of times where you're going to make use of that. So in this particular application, what we're going to do is we're going to just simply detect whether this picture box here is touching this picture box, or this picture box, or this picture box. If any of those events happen, we're going to pop up with a message box saying which one we hit. So this is not going to really be a game per se. It's just going to demonstrate how the collision detection ought to work. Since you're a student of mine, you probably know that I'm a stickler for names. So I'm going to rename things here. I'm going to call this PBX for picture box, and this is enemy 1. And I'm going to copy that. And this is going to be PBX enemy 2. And this guy is going to be PBX enemy 3. There we go. And this is our player. So this is if I can type properly, PBX player. Alright. The other thing we're going to add on here. No, I do not want to update my driver right now. The other thing we're going to add on here is a button that just basically can say check for collision. So we're going to pop that guy over here. And we're going to rename him to BTN Collide. And just going to nudge him over a bit. And then we're going to change the text property. Oops, not that. There we go. To collide. There we go. Alright. So let's move this down a bit so we can see the full form. Alrighty, so here's how the code works. What we want to do is we're going to switch over to code view here. And the first thing we're going to want to do is to declare an array. And what we're going to do for this array is we're going to use this to manage our picture boxes for our enemies. So you can think of this as an array of invaders or what have you. So start with the keyword dim, of course, PBX my enemies. There we go. And since we only have 3 enemies, we only need 3 indexes on our array, or three parts to our array. And it's a picture box array. Okay. Then on the form load event, we're going to do a couple of things here. We're going to actually assign each of these indexes in this array to one of these picture boxes. So this is going to be picture box 0, this is going to be picture box 1, this is going to be picture box 2. So we're going to hop back in here, and we're going to pull up our load event, form events, and load is way down here. So all we're going to do is say, hey, we want pbx my enemies sub 0, that's our first index of our picture box, to equal me dot pbx enemy 1, which is the picture box on our form. Alright, so that's what basically what we're doing here is we're saying this guy here is assigned to the first index of this particular array. The next one's going to be assigned to the second one. The next one's going to be assigned to the third one. I'm just going to copy this. And a lot of veteran programmers get agitated when you do this, but that's okay for the simple demo. You shouldn't really copy and paste code because it produces bugs. But it's all good for this simple demo. And I'll just quickly fix that to 2, and that goes to a 3. There we go. Alright, so again what we're doing is picture box 0 in our array is going to be assigned whatever the content of enemy picture box 1 is on our form. Picture box 1 is going to assign enemy 2, and picture box 2 is going to be assigned enemy 3. So this basically deals with all of our enemies. Alright, now the collision detection part, this is just for managing our picture boxes for our enemies. The collision detection part is real simple. We're going to go back here, and we want to pull up our button click event here. I'm just going to get rid of some white space there. There's our button click event, and all we're going to do on the button click event is we're going to check to see if the outer bounds of this box is touching the outer bounds of any one of these boxes. So the line around the outside here is touching the line around the outside there, or there, or there. So we do that. It's pretty simple. It's actually only one line of code, but we're going to do it in a loop. So we're going to create a for loop. For loops are my favorite for dealing with arrays. And we're going to set an index value. And we're going to start at index 0 on our array. And we're going to go up to 2, which is the last box on our array that we use. And then we're going to have an if statement. Now here's the collision detection bit. We're going to go if me dot pbx player, that's the name of our player picture box, dot bounds dot intersects with, and we open up a round bracket. Just give ourselves a little space here because this is a pretty long piece of code. There we go. Intersects with, and then we're going to use the bounds of each of our picture boxes. So pbx my enemies sub index and dot bounds. Alright, so in this if statement it will return true if our player's picture box, the boundaries of our player's picture box is touching the boundaries of pbx enemy sub 0, and then pbx enemy sub 1, and then pbx enemy sub 2. So if any of those events happen, and this is going to be run through a loop, then we're just going to we're going to do something easy here. We don't need to call up any collision routine or add score or anything like that. All we're going to do for this particular demo is we're going to add in like a picture box, or a picture box. A message box is going to pop up and say, boom, you hit enemy 1 or you hit enemy 2. And that's going to look like this, message box dot show. And we're going to go, you hit enemy space, and then an end. And now we need to figure out which index we're dealing with. So again, our indexes are offset by 1. We're going to have to add 1 to it, and then we're going to convert it to a string so we can pop it up in a message box. Alright, so in a nutshell, here's what it does. We start at index 0, and we check to see if our player is intersecting with enemy 0. Then we're going to increment it to 1, and we're going to check to see if our player is intersecting with enemy 1, and then we're going to increment it to 2 and check to see if it's incremented with enemy 2. Okay, sorry, had someone at my door again. What we're going to do here is when we hit the play button, we're going to detect whether this picture box is touching any of those picture boxes, like I said. So let's hit the play button. Here's our form. Right now it's not touching anything, so when we hit the collide button, it says, hey, nothing's happening here, no collision, which is kind of what we would expect. Now we're going to move the picture box over here, and so these guys are touching. This is enemy 1. When we hit the play button this time, oop, got it off screen there. Now we hit the collide button. Sure enough, it's showing us that we've collided with enemy 1. And we'll just pause that, and we'll move it over there. Now it should show us that we're colliding with enemy 2. And sure enough, we have collided with enemy 2. And then we can, oops, yes, of course. And then we're going to move it over to enemy 3. And we test that one out. And lo and behold, hit the collide button. Sure enough, we've hit enemy 3. Alrighty, so that's it for our collision detection demo. What you can do with this, obviously, is this is for a Space Invaders game that my students are creating, but you could do all kinds of stuff with it, right? You could create a maze-like structure. It looks a bit like this. You know, move that guy over there. So your maze might be consistent of, you know, a whole bunch of picture boxes, an array of picture boxes, and then your player, you know, this is your player again, and he's going to be sliding through the maze like so, and you could be detecting for collision with the walls, and don't let him go over the wall there, don't let him go over the wall there, only let him go on the area where there's no walls. So he moves up here, won't let him go over that wall, so he goes this way, and so on. You can have collision detection with objects. Let's say this is I don't know, a treasure chest, and you walk over. As soon as you touch the treasure chest, it opens up an inventory screen, and you get the key for the next part of the dungeon. Or you pick up a magic sword, or whatever the case may be. So collision detection, very useful for your game design, you know, adventures that you're going to create. And I hope you enjoyed this. Stay tuned for more tutorials.